What are cloud services model? There are three services model provided by the cloud provider. So we have IAAS, that is infrastructure as a service. We have PAAS, platform as a service, and we have SaaS, that is software as a service. Okay, so we have three services model, that is IAAS, PAAS, and SaaS. So now, in order to run our application, we need machines. On top of it, we need OS, we need servers, we need network, we need runtime, and we need application. Okay, so in order to run our application, we need all these things. Okay, so now, so what is SaaS? That is software as a service. So in this software as a service, cloud provider will develop the application and they will deploy the application, and then we can use that application for business purpose or personal purpose. Okay, for example, we have a Microsoft team. Okay, so this is a software that is developed by the Microsoft. Okay, so we are using this application. So here we are using this application to attend the meeting, to record the sessions. Okay, so this application is maintained by the Microsoft team, but we are using it for business purpose or personal purpose. Okay, so in the same way, we have a Google Drive. Okay, so we use this application to store the documents. Okay, so we can store the videos, we can store the audios, we can store the photos, we can store the PDFs, etc. Okay, so up to 15 GB it is free. So after that, we have to purchase the data for rent. Okay, so here Google is maintaining this application and we are using this application for the business purpose. Okay, so this is example for SaaS. So in case of SaaS, everything will be taken care by the cloud provider. Okay, and next we have PAAS, that is platform as a service. Okay, so in case of platform as a service, cloud provider will take care of everything except the application. Okay, so here we have to develop and deploy the application and rest will be taken care by the cloud provider. Okay, so in AWS we have one service called Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, so it supports PAAS model. So in case of this Elastic Beanstalk, we just need to upload our code, rest will be taken care by this service. Okay, so this is example for PAAS. And next we have IAAS, that is infrastructure as a service. So in case of IAAS, cloud provider will provide the infrastructure, so rest we have to take care of it. Okay, so here cloud provider will provide these machines. Okay, and they will provide the servers, so remaining we have to take care of it. Okay, so we have to take care of OS, so we have to take care of network, we have to take care of runtime, we have to take care of application. Okay, the rest will be taken care by the cloud provider. So this is example for IAAS. So if you go to screenshot, so this is the software as a service model. So everything will be taken care by the cloud provider. So in case of platform as a service, so everything which is in orange will be taken care by the cloud provider and rest we have to take care of it. In case of infrastructure as a service, so everything will be taken care by the cloud provider which is in red and rest will be taken care by us. But in case of on-premise, everything will be taken care by us. Okay, so these are some services model which are available in market. So here cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP will support IaaS and PaaS model. Okay, so if we have a service called Elastic Beanstalk, so this is one of the service which support PaaS model. Okay, and next, what is AWS? So AWS stands for Amazon Web Services and it started providing IT infrastructure for rent from the year 2006. So from the year 2006, AWS is providing the IT infrastructure for their rent to the companies. Okay, so AWS cloud services are using nearly in 190 plus countries to run the companies. So since AWS is providing the services through web, they named it as Amazon Web Services. Okay, so first in order to use the services, we have to create an account in AWS console. Okay, so for 1 year it will be free and after that we have to pay as per the usage. So this is the link to create an account. Okay, so at the time of creating an account, we have to provide the credit card or debit card details. So they will deduct 2 rupees for the verification purpose and once the account is created, they will return back the amount. Okay, so here one advantage of AWS is if you make use of paid services, then the bill will be generated accordingly, right? So AWS will not detect the amount. So here auto detection is not available. But in case of Azure and GCP, they will do auto detections. Okay. So if the bill got generated, AWS will send the multiple reminder mails. Then after they will terminate the account if bill is not paid. So we can create another account with different email ID. Okay. So next, what is regions and availability zones? So in AWS, we have a concept of regions and availability zones. So here region means one geographical location and availability zone means data center. Okay. So here region equal to location and availability zone is equal to one data center. Okay. So data center is nothing but the place where AWS is managing the infrastructure. Okay. So here data center is a big building in which they maintain all the infrastructure like servers, power, network, backup, etc. Okay. So if you go to the data center, see here this is a big building, and inside the big building AWS is maintaining all the infrastructure. Okay. So it contains servers, machines, network, power, backup, all the things which are available inside this big building. Okay. So here if you go to AWS global infrastructure, okay, so there will be a map. So here AWS is available in 32 regions, and in 32 regions we have 102 availability zones. Okay. So if you go to the map, so here we have Hyderabad location. So in Hyderabad we have 3 availability zones. And if you go to Mumbai, so in Mumbai we have 3 availability zones. Okay. So in Mumbai it is launched in 2016, but in Hyderabad it is launched in the year 2022. Okay. So in Hyderabad we have 3 availability zones. So in the same way in Sydney, like we have 3 availability zones. So here in Melbourne we have 3 availability zones. Okay. So here we have 3 availability zones. Okay. So we have AZ1, we have AZ2, we have AZ3. Okay. So here we have 3 availability zones. So the distance between this each availability zone will be of minimum 100 kilometers. Okay. So minimum a distance of 100 kilometers will be there for each availability zone. So here suppose I have stored my data in availability zone 1. Okay. So what AWS will do is, so here AWS will store the data as a backup in AZ2 and AZ3. Okay. The reason is if there is any natural disaster occurred in AZ1 location. Okay. So here in AZ1 location we have some heavy floods. Due to this AZ1 is down. Okay. Now if user is trying to access the data, so AWS will provide the data from the either AZ2 or AZ3 location. Okay. So since AWS has stored the data as a backup, so they can send the data to the users from either AZ2 or AZ3. Okay. So that is the reason they have taken it as a backup. Okay. So if you go to AWS, so on the top we have a regions. Okay. So if you go over here, so these are the regions. Okay. So for every region we have a code. So for Mumbai region we have a code called AP South 1. Okay. So for Ireland we have a EU West 1. Okay. This is a code for the Ireland location. Okay. So next here we have support center. Okay. So this is a support center. So now for the paid services bill got generated. Okay. So now I want to clear that bill to 0. Okay. So now I want to waive off that bill. So for that we have to create a case. So we have to click on this create case button. So we have to select account and billing. Okay. So here we have to use billing, consolidated billing, and next we have to click on additional information. So here we have to provide the subject and we have to provide the information, and then we have to submit the request. Okay. So once the request is submitted, so AWS team will internally review this case, and once they review it, they will clear the bill amount to 0. Okay. And next, so here we have EC2. So if you want to create a virtual machine in AWS, then we can go for EC2. Okay. So to run our application, we need machines, right? So for that purpose, AWS is providing this EC2 service. So EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. So we can create Windows, Linux or Mac OS machines. Okay. And next we have S3 service. So it stands for Simple Storage Service, and it is used to store the unlimited data in AWS. So S3 is a global service. So here EC2 is a regional service, whereas S3 is a global service. So I will go to the AWS console. Suppose I want to create a EC2. Okay. So for that I will go to the EC2. So if you observe, the location is Mumbai. Okay. See now I will go to S3 service. Okay. Here I will go to S3 service. See, if you observe the location, here it is global, okay? And if you click on this one, all these are disabled, okay? So that means we can say that S3 is a global service, whereas EC2 is a regional service, okay? And next we have RDS. So it stands for Relational Database Service in AWS Cloud. So it is used to create SQL database in cloud. So instead of we creating a database, so we can go for RDS services. Okay, so here we can create MySQL, Oracle, Postgre. So next we have DynamoDB. So if you want to create a NoSQL database in AWS, then we can go for DynamoDB. Okay, so next we have a Route 53. So if you want to map our application to domain name, then we can go for the Route 53. Okay, so for example, I have created one EC2 machine. Okay, so in that I have installed one server, and inside the server I deployed my application. Okay, so now I want to access my application. So in order to access my application, I need to connect to this EC2. Okay, so for that purpose, we have to make use of IP address to connect to EC2, and we can access our application. Okay, so with the help of IP address, we can access our application. But in real time, instead of using IP address, we will be using the domain name, right? So suppose if you go to youtube.com, okay, so here I will type www.youtube.com. Okay, so here I am using the domain name to connect to this YouTube. Okay, so instead of IP address, here I am using the domain name. So in the same way, if I want to connect to my application with the domain name instead of IP address, then we have a concept of Route 53 service. Okay, so this will map the IP address to a specific domain name. Okay, so for this purpose, we have to make use of Route 53. So next, elastic block storage. So for every machine, we have hard disk or SSD. Okay, the purpose of this hard disk is to store the data. Okay, so for every machine, we have hard disk or SSD. So in the same way, when we create our EC2 instance, one EBS volume will be created by default. Okay, so it is used to store the data. So without this EBS volume, we cannot connect to this EC2. Okay, so this EBS volume is mandatory in order to connect to this EC2 machine. Okay, so this is elastic block storage. Next we have VPC. It stands for Virtual Private Cloud. So VPC will provide the network for the resources in AWS Cloud. For every machine, network is required. Okay, so suppose I have created one EC2 instance in AWS Cloud. Okay, so now I want to connect to this EC2 from my local laptop. Okay, so in order to connect to this EC2 from my local laptop, I need the network connectivity. Okay, so for that purpose, we have to make use of VPC. Okay, so with the help of this VPC, we can protect the security for the resources. Okay, so I will show one example. So with the help of this VPC, we can protect the security for the resources. Okay, so suppose I will go to the AWS. Okay, so AWS is a public cloud. Okay, so everyone can access this AWS console. Okay, so they can create their own account and they can access the AWS console. Okay, so here AWS is a public cloud. So now in AWS, I have created one account. Okay, so I have created one account in AWS, and in my account, I have created one EC2, and I have deployed one application in EC2. Okay, and there is another account which is created by another person. Okay, that is B account. So in his account, he created RDS service, and he used this service to store the data. Okay, so now if I try to access this RDS data from my account, then there will be a security issue, right? So I can store the data and I can use the data for my business purpose. So in order to avoid this kind of problem, VPC comes into picture. Okay, so with the help of this VPC, we can provide the security for the resources. Okay, so here when we create one EC2 machine, by default one VPC will be created, and when we create another RDS service, by default one VPC will be created. Okay, so one VPC cannot be connected to the another VPC. Okay, so if you want to connect to the one VPC from the another VPC, then we have to make use of a VPC peering. Okay, so we have a concept of VPC peering. With the help of this VPC peering, we can connect one VPC from the another VPC. Okay, so this is example for VPC. And next we have IAM. So it stands for Identity and Access Management. So here we can create users, groups, users roles, and the permissions. Okay, so with the help of this IAM, we can provide the permissions to the resources, so they can access those resources accordingly. So we have RDS service, right? So and we have one team called DB admin. So I will provide access to DB admins to create RDS, okay, but I will not give access to create EC2, okay. So for those DB admins, they cannot create an EC2, but they can create an RDS, okay. So these kind of permissions we can give to the resources, okay. So with the help of IAM, we can provide these kind of permissions to the resources. And next we have Elastic Beanstalk. Using the service, we just need to upload our code and rest will be taken care by this Elastic Beanstalk service, okay. And next we have CloudWatch. So it is used to monitor the resources. Suppose I have a EC2 instance, okay. So in that, if CPU usage is more than 50%, then I need to receive one email notification. So for that, we can configure it in CloudWatch, okay. So we use CloudWatch to monitor our resources, okay. So these are some services which are available in AWS. So I will explain about each and every service in next section, okay.